During the summer break in July, Zkira Kemp left Houston to go to Maryland with her two best friends. Around 2 a.m. on the 8th of July, she was then in an accident where she died and her two friends survived. But the mother, Jalunda, has been told conflicting stories about her daughter's death.
From the police to the medical examiner.
And events leading up to it. As well as that, it seems like there was a different body in the car that wasn't secured. And there is audio recording of a man who lived at the residence of where the car accident was. And he said that a man showed up to mourn and said this.
My son got killed and his son got burned up. The other son went in the hospital. He went in critical condition, and the girl, I think she got hurt too, whatever like that. That's what I'm told to me.
So if it's not Zkira's body in the car, who is it? And the description and the location that this man at the residence described matches to Addison Jr., who was the father of Aiden, who's friends with Mike, and they were all staying at this location on the trip. Then the state ended up going after Michael, and this is what ended up happening at the final court hearing. I was able to interview Jolanda's sister, and she gave us insight on what happened. Okay, so where would you like to start? What was... I get you guys went through a lot. There was a lot of hearings, a lot of setbacks, a lot of them pulling different dates, etc.
Right. So we went through many different hearings, and at one point they had offered Michael to drop all of the charges. They offered him a plea deal to drop all of the charges and just charge him with the main thing, which was negligent manslaughter, vehicular manslaughter. I'm not really sure and they offered him 10 years, and of course him and his lawyer turned that down. And so as we went on through the other different hearings, like one of the hearings we sat through because another case was going on. And so during that hearing, a young man was being charged with domestic violence. And he got 4 years for domestic violence. So I'm like, wow. And so, we went on. And then after they offered him the 10-year, they went back and offered him a 3-year cap, which means he can get anywhere from no jail time at all, but nothing over 3 years. And I was like, wow. So, of course, him and his attorney, they accepted that deal. And
Do you
so
know why they would have gave him a plea deal?
honestly, I don't know. I can only assume that this case has been a mess from the beginning. It has truly been a mess from the beginning. So, it was one thing to offer him 10, which was what he would get for what he was charged with, the primary charge. But to go back and from 10, you drop it down to a 3-year cap, so the judge could have given him anywhere from probation up to 3 years, but she could not have sentenced him above 3 years. So it was like, okay, what can you say? This was a deal that was made by the prosecutor. Apparently, they don't have to consult with us. They just tell us once everything is done. And so it was like, okay, so they accepted it, and they went ahead and scheduled the court date, which was for this past Wednesday. What date was that? The 10th? So it was the 10th of April. And so we actually flew out there on the 8th of April because they actually flew me and my sister down there. And they were going to put us up in a hotel room as well. Now, that was a story in itself because we got a rental car. We went to Washington and we got a rental car and we drove down to Charles County, where La Platte or whatever they call it. And we pulled up, and I'd already Googled the hotel. It was like trash, but I at least wanted to go by and see. And so when we pull into the parking lot of the hotel, and the first thing I see, there's a naked man standing in the window. And I'm like, oh my God. So we went in and just to look, really, because we had already made other reservations for ourselves. And this was the most seediest smelliest hotel I've ever been in my life. And in fact, directly across the street from the hotel was the Charles County Sheriff Office. And right beside it was their detention centers. But we ended up moving and going into another hotel. And then we went to, the trial was on Wednesday, and it was at 1 o'clock. So we made our way up there. We waited. And while we're waiting, Michael's family starts piling in. And there were quite a few people there. We see his mother, a lot of church people, Coach Fair, Rhonda.
Oh,
So
she was there.
she was there. And so, no
Was
one said
Aiden there?
anything. Hmm?
Was Aiden there?
No. If he was, I didn't notice him. But he had a good following there for him. So it started with the prosecutor. She led off telling about the accident. Now, before we even got to that point, when she finally showed up and we met her, my first question to her was she still planning on showing the photos from the accident? Because the man that was handling it before her had already told us they were planning on showing those photos. But when I asked her that question, she said that she wasn't. And I told her, absolutely not. I want you to show the photos. I want them to see what we saw. I want them to know exactly what happened, because they made this deal. We honestly didn't get any answers to any of the questions we had concerning what really transpired. So the prosecutor, she started, saying it was an accident, saying that Zkira had been killed on impact. She said that Michael had benzodiazepam in his system. And so therefore, yeah, when I looked it up, it says it's some type of drug for the nervous system. It's like a downer. And so, but they knew that he was not on that medication. So therefore, they don't know where he got it or anything like that. So it was like, okay, she said all of that. And, it didn't take long. It really didn't. So she said what she said. And then they allowed me to speak, and then my sister. And, at the time I spoke, I actually, they showed the pictures, first of all. That was something else. Because
Hang
we
on, they
knew.
ended up showing the pictures?
Yes, because I wanted them to.
Okay.
Because why would you not want them to see what they did?
Yeah.
So, even though it was very difficult to see those again, I needed their family to see this, because, I don't know what Michael's told his family. I don't know what they thought transpired, but I wanted them to see what they showed us. And so I insisted that she showed those pictures, and she did. So she showed pictures of the car, she showed pictures of the body and things of that nature. And then after that is when she rested, and she allowed, first it was me. And then during my impact statement, I actually showed the picture that I believe you had of Michael at his family gathering, throwing the little finger sign. And so I wanted them to know this wasn't even 30 days after this, and he's out having a good time. And so, my sister, she spoke. And after that is when his lawyer stood up and, started pleading their side of it. Now, I heard a lot of interesting things when they started to speak on his behalf. Now, one thing they said that I don't know if it's true or not, I don't believe it is, but his lawyer said that Michael was in college in Houston when he met Zkira. He said that he was at a community college in Houston. That was my first time ever hearing that, because in all the hearings we had beforehand, his lawyer at one time even said that Michael had never left the state of Maryland, which we know was a lie because Zkira met him in Houston. So it was like, okay, now what is it? Did he never leave Maryland, or was he in college in Houston, as they claim? And I don't know. I don't know if he was truly in college, but they claimed that he was in a community college in Houston, and that's how he met Zkira. And so, they talked about how he's working and he's going to college and he's doing all these great and grand things. Everything they're saying he was doing is something Zkira was already doing. She was in college. She was working with special needs children. She was in the church. She was a praise dancer. She did all of these things. But yet now Michael is this angel that he just made a mistake. And even then, I still have so many questions because they did say that Michael was still going through medical issues, and he will always have medical issues because of this accident, and that he's already facing the consequences of his action because they said he has scars from the accident that and so therefore this is something he has to live with daily. But they said that Michael went through 8 surgeries, and I'm like, he was out the hospital on the 14th of July when my sister went down there. Now, you done had all of these different surgeries and you're out the hospital 8 days later. I don't, knowing the type of surgeries that they claim that he had, I don't believe it. And unless I was able to sit down with his medical doctor to ask these questions, no one can ever convince me that Michael was as bad as they claim. His mother said that when this accident happened, that they had given Michael a 10% chance of survival. But in a week, he's out the hospital. Even if you go through surgery like that, and especially when you're dealing with your heart, you're not gonna leave ICU, because when you leave ICU, they do a step down. And so you mean to tell me he left in 8 days and he done had 8 different surgeries? No one can ever convince me of that. No one.
Actually, no. When you walked in and all of them walked in, did any of them say anything to you guys?
No, not one word. And I think I was in my feelings. So I'm kind of old school. So I was just mean mugging everybody. I wanted you to know that I see who you are. No, even Coach Fair, no, I'm looking you in your eyes. I want you to know that we are a family that y'all basically you hurt. You're standing behind somebody that chose to lie. If this was truly just a simple accident, if they had said that from the beginning, I think we could have accepted that and started moving on from it. But from the beginning, you lied. From the beginning, you even tried to blame the victim. So after that, I have no trust in you whatsoever. I feel absolutely nothing for you whatsoever, because how I actually ended up seeing Rhonda, I was coming out the bathroom and I saw Michael's mother standing up against the wall, and I saw a young lady there. But the way she was standing, it was kind of blocking my view. So I walked around and stood in front of her because I wanted to see who I was looking at, and it was her. And she just looked down. She just looked at the floor. And so, like I said, I was just beside myself seeing them like that, because y'all want to sing Michael's praises, but when have y'all ever thought about what he's done? What he's caused. And then you're pleading for him to get no jail time, because when his lawyer started speaking, they had already apparently looked into a monitoring company, because they asked the judge to give him house arrest. And because they were saying he has to see, he's still seeing doctors and this, that, and the other, and they don't believe he would get the medical attention he needed in jail. And so therefore they were asking for house arrest, or They wanted the very low end of the spectrum when it came to sentencing.
When you showed the photos, was there a reaction on their side?
Honestly, I did, because I sat on the front row. I didn't see anybody. They were all behind us. And I didn't look back because it had been a while. And so when I saw those pictures, I was kind of taken aback again because they didn't just show the car, they showed the body and everything. And the prosecutor actually told people before she showed the pictures that they were going to be some, the people that didn't want to see, they may wanted to close their eyes. So I don't know if his family actually looked at those pictures or not, but they were there. They showed the car. They showed where the car actually bounced back onto the road and was had burnt up. And so, I don't know if they actually looked at the pictures or not. I couldn't say I heard anything.
So when you guys finally had a chance to speak, what did you say?
Well, I think when I started, because I had written out a whole statement, but I think when I heard the prosecutor, when she was saying how Zkira had been killed on impact, the first thing I thought about was that autopsy report. Because in the autopsy report, it did said she had sitting. So which means that she took a breath. So I wanted the judge to know that, no, I don't want people to think it was crash, you're gone, and nothing. So I stood up and I let her know that, I needed to correct that, because based on what we were told, that she was alive. And so, I told him that. I told him about Michael's family gathering after this, less than 30 days later, and that it seemed like, he had just moved on. And while he was out enjoying his family, having a good time, we were still here waiting just to get remains back so we could go and bury. But yet you're out having a good time with your family, to the point where I don't even see how you were able to take a picture like that, flipping the camera off with, I don't know what that was on his head. I don't know if that was a beer or a soda. I have no idea what it was. I don't. But, I wanted the judge to know that, you went on. You lied. I told the judge that, he sent my sister's text messages in which he told my sister that Zkira was drinking and driving and that she killed herself. And so, I wanted her to know that this wasn't just a simple accident and then, he accepted responsibility, because he didn't. And to me, you still didn't accept responsibility, because after we had given our statement and the judge started talking, I guess when we went down because of everything else that has happened, honestly, I didn't expect Mike to get any jail time, because y'all gave a 3-year cap. We had already been through all of this with the state of Maryland, with the ME's office, with the Charles County Sheriff Office. So honestly, I kind of had my mind set that they would give him no jail time. And so when the judge started speaking, she was saying that she felt like Michael had showed our family, I think the word she used was benevolence. And I'm thinking, And she said, because he took responsibility instead of putting us through a trial. And honestly, I would have rather went through a trial so I could hear everything and he get acquitted than for you to sit up there and make a plea deal. And now I'm still left with all these questions.
And it's like he never showed any remorse.
Well, he was, because of where he was seated in between his two lawyers, it looked like he was crying. So you sat here, you cried a few tears, you claimed you loved her. But based on all these injuries they say you got, and you said you tried to get her out, I don't believe that. And then they said because of the injuries Rhonda had. that they were surprised he was able to pull her out with all of his injuries. But when Corporal Raymond Brooks called me back the day of this accident, Corporal Brooks told me that Rhonda's injuries were not serious. In fact, he told me they may keep her for observation, but he believed she would either be out that day or the next day because her injuries were not severe. But yet, y'all trying to tell me somebody that almost died, he pulled this girl that wouldn't really hurt out. And then, no, that just leaves a bitter and bad taste in my mouth. They claim, they've always said they love Zkira and this, that, and the other. But if that's your way of showing love, please don't love me, hate me, because no, absolutely not.
What did Yolanda say?
Time to speak. She spoke about the fact of losing Zkira. She read an email that Zkira had written, and so she was emotional because it was hard seeing people that have been in your home and have been around you like that, and then things turn out the way they did. And so I don't think anything as far as, we just really spoke from the heart. Nothing really written out, because even though I wrote something out, I didn't read what I wrote. And if you ask me what I said, I can't even remember everything I said, because at that time, I can only speak from my heart as to what I was feeling in that moment and the things that I wanted to get out at that time.
You mentioned she read an email from Zkira. Was this like a...
It was an old email, basically letting them know how Zkira looked at them. How, when she wrote that, she looked at them. She didn't look at them as friends. She looked at them as family. And so, I guess sometimes the saying is true. Sometimes your family would do you the worst because, I look at how, after the first person that spoke for him was Coach Fair. And really they didn't, his lawyer more so just asked him questions. They didn't have a statement. So he asked Coach Fair about his relationship with Michael, how he knew Michael, and things like that. And, he was saying that he had met Michael when he was in middle school, and how Michael just started hanging out at his house and he started calling him son and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, whatever. And then after that, it was his mother that spoke. And like I said, they didn't really write anything. His lawyer was asking her questions about Michael, he actually asked her who was there. And, she had there was a lot of people there, uncles, aunts, fathers, just, different people from the church. And so she started telling who was there, and how, how Michael, she had Michael in the church since he was a baby and blah, blah, blah. Stuff to me that really, okay. And, they said that Michael he didn't have a record. And so therefore, this was really his first time being in trouble. But my thought of that is this is your first time being caught. I don't believe this is the first time you've done anything. This is just the first time being caught.
Did Wanda say anything?
No.
No. And what did he say? Did he have a chance to speak, or did he get his lawyer to speak?
No. So after Michael's mother, they had a lady from the church come and speak about knowing Michael and the type of person he is. And then afterwards, they did allow Michael to speak, and he stood up and he turned around And he faced my sister and he apologized. He told her that he was so sorry, and if he could change it, he would. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And so, it wasn't a long, dramatic, it just, he turned around and he did. He looked at her. He looked at her in the eye and he told her that he was sorry. And so after that, he sat down and then the judge started going through her deliberation, but she did it right there on the bench. And she was looking at she was looking at like different paperwork. She looked at the picture that I had showed. She looked at, because my sister actually bought the obituary and put that in as well. So she looked at all of that. And so when she started talking, she talked about the fact that, Michael she feels like he took responsibility because he didn't put our family through a trial. Because going through a trial, they have all of these different things that, there's always couldn't be having to go back and forth, blah, blah, blah. And so she felt like he took responsibility, but, I didn't feel it that way. I didn't see it that way, so, and as she started to say that, and she said that because of the fact that these were two young college students, and still in my mind, I'm wondering when you went to college, but I can't say if he did or didn't. I have no idea. But she was saying that because these are two young college students, and that a tragic accident had happened. And so as she started talking, I'm starting to think, because of what she was saying, I'm thinking, okay, he's about to get probation. So then she told him that he had to, she had to give him something because of the severity of what transpired. So they didn't feel like he should be in like a prison per se. So she asked about what's the cutoff. So I guess based on their laws, if you have 18 months and under, you can do it at the detention center. Anything above 18 months, you would actually go to a prison. So she set it at the 18 months so that he wouldn't go to prison. He's basically in a detention center. And in fact, because of the fact that I told you the hotel they had originally put us up at, the detention center was directly across the street from that hotel. And so I'm assuming, I don't know, that he would be going to that detention center because it was straight down the street from the from the courthouse. After she said what she said, the prosecutor asked if she could leave, and I just left the courtroom. I didn't want to see or be a part of anything else. I just walked out.
You guys still don't have the final police report, do you?
No, because they were saying that you had to wait until all paperwork had been submitted and blah blah blah. So because after we left, we went down and we talked to the prosecutor, and so I was asking her about. I really wanted it before I left, but she was saying that she couldn't give me any of that. I would have to request it on my own. And so, but I would have to wait until everything else had been submitted, this, that, and the other. So it's like, okay. So now I think now we're still processing. We haven't made any real decisions. I still have questions. I really still have questions. And, it's bad to think that people would go to this length to cover things up, because, I still keep thinking about all of these medical things they were saying. And I just don't understand how you can be out the hospital a week later. And then his attorney said that he was in there for 3 months. When? Because you were out. There are pictures all over social media. You were not at the hospital. So I don't understand. I really just don't understand.
Did he say this at the final trial?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, he did. And so, like I said, and because some of the things he was saying, I wanted to stand up and correct him, but of course, we couldn't because it was already at the end. And so it's like, what can you do? Because, they had pretty much, to me, I feel like the judge was trying to be fair, and based on the fact that she heard that he was a college student, he's in the church, he works with children, he does all of these things. I think, and because of the fact that he had truly never been arrested or anything, she was trying her best to make a decision based on what she felt was an accident, which I still don't feel that way. I still feel that there's a lot more that still hasn't been told. And so it makes you wonder, will we ever truly find out the full extent of what transpired? Here's another thing. So even though he got 18 months, the judge let us know that at 4.5 months, 4.5 months, he comes up for probation.
So probation is like, that means he has a chance to get out, right?
Yes.
Okay, wow.
Yes. So in 4.5 months, he has the opportunity to get out. And so therefore, really, you're not doing any time. So what can you do?
It's interesting that Wanda's there too, considering that she was going to take him to court.
Exactly. And, one thing Michael's mother said that made me think about something is that, she talked about how Michael and Rhonda were affected by this accident. And she talked about how she hears Rhonda and Michael crying. So it made me think that Rhonda's staying with her. Because when she said it, your mind gets to thinking, and I'm like, is she staying at the house with him? Now, I remember at one time you tried to sue him, and now you're living with him. So I don't know if she's staying with them. I don't know what's going on. And at this point, all I want is that one of you come and truly tell what happened. Not tell what you want people to say, because, now with me thinking that, I'm thinking, who the hell wrote your medical records? Because I just don't see all of these injuries. I don't see all of these surgeries, and you're being out and as active as you were. I just don't.
Yeah, there's just so many weird things. Wow. Oh, thank you so much for sharing all that with me. I'm so sorry that you guys